Hi, this is Professor Guess, and we are talking about faith. Is faith a good reason to believe in God? You should have read Faith and Falsification by two authors, Anthony Flew and Basil Mitchell. They take opposite sides on this. So we're going to use Anthony Flew's position for steps 1 through 4 in the checklist, and Basil Mitchell's for step 5. You could word the question in more than one way. You just do it the way I just started with, is faith a good reason to believe in God, which is related to the title of Faith and Falsification because that's what they're talking about, faith. You could also word it as, does the theist accept any evidence against their beliefs? There's more than one way to word this question, but you want to word it in such a way as to incorporate the entirety of the essay. So we're going to do, is faith a good reason to believe in God? So that's our overall question being asked. In step 2, we're going to skip defining God because we're just going to say God is a higher power. He doesn't, in the essay, really go into a definition for God. Faith. The definition of faith is going to change depending on which position you take. For Anthony Flew's position, faith is a belief in something when you don't accept any evidence against it. All right. This definition is going to get criticized in step 5. But for now, that's our terms. And we're going to use Anthony Flew's position as the answer. Is faith a good reason to believe in God? And Anthony Flew is going to say no. And he's going to say no based on his idea of what faith is. And he explains his definition or his concept by using an analogy. And he uses the analogy of someone who believes in a gardener. Let's say you're walking by a beautiful, what looks like a garden. It's just got wildflowers everywhere and it's pretty and it's got a nice place to walk and it's all green and lush. It looks perfect. So you and your friend are looking at this and you're like, wow, the gardener here does a wonderful job. And the other person says, well, how do you know there's a gardener at all? Maybe this is just the way it is. So you're like, well, let's find out. So we're going to see if we can prove whether or not there's a gardener. So you put up invisible posts. You put up something that would beep in case anybody came into the garden. Nothing ever beeps. So you're like, okay, there's proof. No gardener. So the person that believes in the gardener says, no. It could be that the gardener just jumps over our little fence thing. So you put up multiple fences. So there's no way you can get into the garden without setting the alarm. The alarm doesn't go off. So the person that doesn't believe in the gardener says, hey, there is no gardener. The person who believes in the gardener says, no, maybe the gardener is invisible and intangible and it doesn't set off the alarm because it's pure energy and it goes through the alarm we have set. And the person looks at you, the one that believes in the gardener, and says, well, why is that any different than believing in no gardener at all? So this is the analogy. This is the story that Anthony Flew uses. Why does he use this story? He uses this story because he believes that the theist, we might should have defined in step 2, but since we did it in Why God Allows Evil, you should already know. A theist is someone who believes in God. An atheist is someone who doesn't believe in God. Agnostic is someone who's not sure. And the whole thing is talking about theists. So for the people who believe in God, and he uses the story of the garden and the person that believes in the gardener, and he says that the person that believes in the gardener without any proof is in the same position as the theist who believes in God without any proof. That they don't take any evidence against God's existence. No matter what is said, no matter how many fences or how many alarms you put up to try to catch the gardener, you never find proof of the gardener. He's going to say the theist is in the same position. That their belief, their faith in the gardener is empty. And it's empty because it doesn't take any criticisms against it seriously. There's a quote called "a death by 1,000 qualifications." And basically it means, well, the gardener would exist except he's invisible. The gardener would exist except he's intangible. The gardener would exist except nobody can see him. The gardener can't move things. The gardener can't do anything, but the gardener still cares. So, death by 1,000 qualifications is, by the time you qualify this so many times, there's nothing left. So if you have a statement and you take no evidence against it seriously, then the statement is empty of meaning. Because it doesn't matter what you say, it's not going to change the person's belief in that statement. And this is the position that Anthony Flew thinks the theist is in. Okay? And this is why he basically is arguing faith is not a good reason to believe in God, because the faith is empty because you don't take anything against it seriously. Alright. He uses an argument by analogy, which by now you've noticed philosophers like argument by analogy. You tell an analogy that makes a point, you compare it to the point you're trying to make, and that's how you make your point. So he uses the story of the gardener to make the point that to believe in the invisible, intangible gardener is the same as not believing in any gardener. And then he compares it to that of the position of a theist, and basically comes to the conclusion that theist is in the same position, that their faith is empty because no evidence against it is ever taken seriously. Alright, that's step 4. Step 5, Basil Mitchell is going to disagree with Anthony Flew. And Basil Mitchell is going to say, you used the wrong analogy. A theist is not in the position of someone who believes in an invisible, intangible gardener. The theist is really in the position, and this is when he tells his own story, that he thinks, his own analogy of which he thinks that the theist is more in the position of this story. And the story goes like this. Imagine in a war situation, and you meet the general of your army, and he makes a severe impression on you. You just have immediate faith in this person. And you believe that the general is on your side and is sincerely wanting your side to win. Now, you can never tell anything about the general, but you believe in the general. And over the years, the war continues, and sometimes good things happen, and you go, yay, see what the general did. And then other times, bad things happen, and you see the general do things like turn over someone from your side to the enemy. And that counts against your belief in the general. And you recognize it counts against your belief in the general. You take it seriously. But that initial meeting gave you a belief, and it's a strong belief, and you take the evidence against it seriously, but not decisively so. So you don't change your position, but you do take the evidence against it seriously. So, Basil Mitchell is going to say the theist is in that position. The theist has a personal experience that gives them faith, and then they take the evidence seriously. So he's going to say Anthony Flew is wrong, that theists do take the evidence against God seriously, but never decisively so, meaning they don't ever change their position. They take it seriously, they think about it, maybe they'll update parts of their belief, but never to believe in God's existence. And that is step 5. Step 6, Anthony Flew does not respond to Basil Mitchell. I would like everybody to think, how would you, if you were Anthony Flew, respond to Basil Mitchell? And that is our essay, Theology of Falsification. And I hope this helped you understand the essay. It's pretty short and it's pretty interesting. So feel free to email me comments, and I hope you're having a good day. Bye.